The mining industry has been a driving force behind South Africa's economy for over 150 years. Despite the growing economic challenges, the country's a well-established global player. According to the former CEO of Eskom, Maroga, there's still a missing conversation about the role of the sector and the economy. He joins me now for that conversation. As you and I speak, Mr. Maroga, and thank you for your time, as you and I speak, it's ahead of the mining Indaba, which usually focuses on the state of the industry, but also issues of investment in the industry. As we speak, there's just been this Fraser report that came out just recently that puts us in the bottom 10 countries out of 84 territories that were surveyed for, attractiveness for investment in mining. We ranked 75th out of 4 territories. When you look at that, but also you look at our real potential, which many do say, continues to be there. Where would you locate us in terms of tapping into this sector, the ease with which we can tap into the sector?
Well, I think Thulasizwe, I think that we need to acknowledge is the historic role of mining in the industrial development of South Africa. And if we go to history and learn from history, then we can be able to extrapolate what things we need to do going forward. So I make this point that South Africa is mainly a mining economy, and the boundaries, the political boundaries of South Africa, in fact, were driven by mining interests in 1910, and the whole industrial architecture was developed in order to accommodate mining. But we are now moving into a second phase. We're talking about, for instance, the energy transition. When we talk about energy transition, we should actually talk about first the economic transition. What is this new economy that we need to build, for which we need to transition our energy sector? And those are the fundamental issues that I think we need to talk about. And one of the things, of course, and I mean, the bigger issue, which is an obstacle now, is state-owned enterprises as they relate to powering and impacting on the economy, talking about energy constraints, talking about transport constraints, port constraints. How do we make those things become the platforms for the new industrialization of South Africa? So, and learning from the past and extrapolating to the future, those are the things that I think we need to be talking about actually.
Yeah, and it's important that you raise the nexus between the energy situation and the mining, sector in the country. What's your assessment at the moment? We all know about the issues around energy, and specifically when we talk an aspect of energy being electricity, and what the crisis is in electricity. There have been a number of reforms that are being called for, including those that are led by Operation Vulindlela, steered and directed from the presidency. About 19 reforms that are set to be prioritized. Many of them talk to the issue of energy. So in that context of the energy crisis we face, does mining continue to be hamstrung, or are there pathways through which we can free up mining such that it leads to that reindustrialization that you talk about?
Look, 2 things. One, obviously, we need to sort out the current energy crisis so that mining can continue to operate unimpeded. The second point is the whole issue of the just energy transition. Mining is impacted in that 50% of whole mining industry supply into the energy sector. So when we talk about just energy transition, coal to renewables, what will be the impact of those mining industries and mining communities? And that's a big conversation. And as we've seen, COP26 is looking at how South Africa transition, but the European and rich countries can actually fund that transition. And how do we actually take advantage of that and create an inclusive economy beyond just mining that talks to the new energy. Then the third issue is obviously is that when we transition to renewables, where we have built an energy system that is based on large industries like mine and based on large sources like coal mines, will renewables be able to support this energy transition? What do we need to do? Is things like, of course, wind and solar, but battery storage, the hydrogen economy, and gas as part of that transition. Those are the conversations that need to be heard in the energy sector and the mining sector, because it's going to be a big sector that's impacted in this transition, as Thulasizwe.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, Mr. Maroga, that those are the conversations that should be amplified given the space we are in both sectors, mining and energy. I guess what I'm asking is your assessment of the extent to which the penny has dropped around the importance of those conversations about the issues you raised, such as the just transition, but also the sustainability of the energy situation when we look at mining as a consumer of energy, as an industry that is a major consumer of energy. Has the penny dropped? Is that being taken seriously by the role players, be it government, be it the mining sector itself, labor and others?
Yes, I think that the penny has dropped in various sectors to a different extent. When you look at the mining industry by itself, I think you're beginning to see a lot of mines beginning to talk about self-provisioning. You have seen the Department of Energy allowing space for self-consumption of up to 100 megawatts. That has opened space for big corporations to begin to build their own energy production based on renewables. So the penny has dropped there. And the issue, I think the biggest issue that I think we still have to deal with is when we talk about the retirement of coal power stations in circumstances where 80%, 90% of our energy system is based on coal. I think there's going to be a hard conversation when we talk about energy transition. What do you do to the mining industries, the coal mining industries, the mining jobs? And there, I think a lot of work needs to happen. But I think we operate in an environment where I think the COP26 has assisted, where countries have said we can give you billions of rands to become a pilot of how a country can transition from mostly coal to renewables. And I think that gives us a platform to think about what is the industrial base of the future based on the energy sector particularly. So I think the penny has dropped, the Thulasizwe, in various sectors in various degrees, but I think the conversation, in my view, I think it's taking shape in terms of how we shape the future of energy in South Africa, transitioning from the coal base to more renewables and other sources.
Given everything we've just talked about, Mr. Maroga, what is your sense of the latent potential of the mining industry? Can we resuscitate this giant to what it used to be, or are we now pining for an era that's really gone, where it used to employ more than 700,000 employees at one point in the 80s? Is that something that we are now pining for past glory that will be near impossible to reclaim, or is there realistically something there for us to work with if we get the regulatory environment right, if we get the investment climate right, and we get the energy situation right?
My view is that the mining industry is still a big and is potentially a big contributor to the South African economy. Some of the minerals that we have, the resources we have, we're either in the top 5 or first in terms of resources. For instance, platinum, I mean, we're probably in the number 1 with about 90% of platinum reserves in South Africa. Gold, we're still up there in terms of reserves, iron ore, manganese. So there's still a lot of potential in the mining industry to play a big role in the economy of South Africa. But we cannot go back to the past glory, Thulasizwe, because the employment capacity of the mines obviously is affected by new technologies to be able to efficiently extract without labor. So we need to understand that. And competition, international competition says you need to do things more efficiently. So the issue is going to be, in the future, how do we still use the mining reserves to contribute to the economy, but also, like we have seen with oil-rich countries, where they begin to say, how do we migrate from a commodity-based economy to other things, where Dubai, for instance, migrated from just oil to tourism, to financial sector. We need to be doing those kind of things. How do we use the platform, but migrate to other forms of the economy, which are not commodity-based, are more high-value economic sector to attract revenue without just digging things in the ground. So that's where I think the conversation should be. What is the next economic platform and industrial platform of South Africa, sustainable industrial platform of South Africa?
Yeah. Thank you for your time, Mr. Maroga. I really appreciate your time and your insights. Not to ambush you or anything, but I think it would be remiss of me to not ask you about your reflections on the State Capture Commission of Inquiry report, particularly the latest edition that delved into the situation at Eskom, also giving the context that your name had been mentioned in some of the testimonies that had taken place there. So I believe you probably have had time to look at it and read through it. What have you made of it, and the extent to which it provides possible solutions and a platform for us to rebuild the SOE, this one SOE that is so integral to economic growth in the manner that you and I have discussed in the last few minutes?
I think, Thulasizwe, for the record, I've read the volumes, and I'm not implicated in any way. I was never called to the State Capture Commission on the basis that I was not implicated in anything. So I just want to put that on record. However, I've read the two volumes with interest. I mean, they actually paint a very bad picture of how boards, executives, ministers were manipulated for the interest of a few business interests. And I think now that it's been released, and Eskom, together with the authorities, are saying they're going to chase those that need to be chased, I think it's good for South Africa, it's good for the country. But I think we shouldn't, the state capture is talking about chasing those who have done wrong. But it's not obviously talking about how you then transform the sector to perform well. That was not its mandate. And we still need leadership in there to say, how do we deal with the technical issues of Eskom, the financial issues of Eskom, to put the power sector to where it should be to be able to empower the economy. Because you see, the power sector is the lifeblood of the economy. When you disempower the power sector, the entire economy suffers. So beyond state capture is talking about how do you revive, deal with the issues, technical issues of Eskom, so that it can perform well and become a platform for the resuscitation of the economy. Those are the things that I think we need to talk about, and they are beyond the issue of the State Capture Commission.
Absolutely. Mr. Maroga, I thank you for your time, and I thank you for indulging me on that question. And you are absolutely right. It is important to highlight and headline that you are not an implicated person. Your name did get mentioned by Minister Barbara Hogan during her testimony, but there are no findings that relate to you. I appreciate you addressing that issue around the report of the State Capture Commission of Inquiry. Jacob Maroga is the former CEO of Eskom. He was talking to me about the nexus between the energy sector, the challenges we are facing there, possible solutions, and what the implications could be for the mining sector and, by extension, the economy of South Africa.